Hi Homeworthy, I'm Martina Casonato. Welcome to my home in London. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
My name is Martina Casonato. I'm a graphic designer, photographer and content creator, originally from Italy but based in London. I'm also the face behind the Instagram account The Venetian Pantry, where I share my love for food, cooking, interior design, travel and more. And welcome to my home. We're in Stoke Newington in North London. I moved to the UK in 2012 to do my master's. So I did my BA in industrial design in Italy. I grew up in Italy, lived there until I was 22, and then I moved to the UK in 2012. I left Italy without really a plan to ever go back. And then I very quickly felt a home in London. And then obviously I met my wonderful husband, who's English, and so here we are. Joe is English and I'm Italian. So I wanted our house to reflect both of us, so have obviously it's a Victorian house, so it's already heavily English, but I still wanted to have little Italian touches here and there. Terrazzo floors, the use of marble, the use of natural materials. There's a couple of arches that you'll see upstairs in our bedroom that kind of nod to that. And then there is what I call my Venetian wall, which is right in front of me as I talk, which was just a happy accident that was uncovered when the builders were doing were demolishing the old kitchen. In the process, this amazing wall was revealed with these layers of pink and greens, and it really reminded me so much of the architecture you see in Venice especially. So it felt like such a serendipitous coincidence, that like such a gift that the house was gifting me, and my builder thought I was completely nuts to want to keep it. It was like, are you sure? People are just gonna think that I haven't finished the job, and like, what are they gonna think? But I just love it so much. It had so much character and a sense of home for me. Because of that mix of green and patina and pinks, and yeah, I love it so much. So today we're gonna take you on a little tour of my home, and then we're gonna come back to the kitchen where I'm gonna show you how to make some easy peasy, stress-free summer crostini, perfect for this season and perfect for entertaining. Welcome to our living room. This is the place where we spend our evenings and unwind, watch TV on the sofa. I love the light in here. I love the big bay window. Another little detail that I brought from home is the Café curtains. So these were made by my mom's seamstress of 30 years. She's created all the curtains for my parents' house. And so she made these curtains for me, and I always get asked, where do you get the Café curtains? And also, where do you get the poles? Which are really clever because they just detach in a very clever way. So I always get asked where they're from, but unfortunately, unless you're prepared to go to Italy, I can't tell you where. I mean, I can, but yeah, they're a little touch of home. We just recently got this beautiful shady lady plant from a company called Plant Drop. And I think it just elevates the space so much. It creates so much height and accentuates the height actually of the space. This armchair is antique and sourced from an online company called Carthouse. Little stool is antique. This is a meditation bell. Over here we've got our sofa, which is from sofa.com. Really comfortable, really easy. The covers are washable linen. This piece is a painting from an English artist called Hannah Noble. It's just a celebration of my favorite color, olive green. And I think it just fits so well in this space, and it really helps with the serene atmosphere. These are hand dyed actually. And in the UK, they are from a company called LA Home. And then we've got some more marble accents in the shape of this really pretty lamp. and this table, which is from Gubi. It's an Italian company that I really love. Rug is washable and it's from Ruggable. Again, it's finding things that are beautiful but also really practical. I'd never want friends to be too careful or too worried about spilling things. So the sofa is washable, the rug is washable, is all fine. And then we've got our little stove. This corner is not finished yet. As I said before, I like to take my time, and the house is still a work in progress. So eventually I would love for a mantelpiece or a fireplace surround to go here, but I love having a little stove in winter. It makes the space so cozy. The bricks are the same bricks that we've used in the patio outside and also on the steps leading from here to the kitchen. Because again, I like to use the same materials and fixtures throughout the house. For example, these little candle holders from Rowan and Wren, you'll have seen them in the ensuite near the bath, and they're here, and there's also in another place of the house. So I think using the same the same material palette and the same fixtures really helps create a cohesive sense and feel to your house. These cabinets were made, again, bespoke by my lovely carpenter. These houses all are wine and liquor, even though I don't drink. But it's great for when we entertain. This is probably my favorite one because it houses all my collection of table games, which I'm a big fan of. This is the second living room. So historically, it would have been the old dining room of the house. It's also probably the darkest space in the house. So we decided to convert it into our office. So we have our his and hers desk. My husband, as I said, is also a graphic designer. We had our wonderful carpenter Vinny build this bespoke desk, which has massive drawers to fit our A1 print proofs. And it's really a feat of engineering because it's a really heavy desk. And on that shelf, we've got a mixture of some of our work, some of other references that inspire us. It's a bit of a gallery little shelf. So this is our dining room extension. So this space wasn't here before. However, that brick wall was already here, and it kind of is the reason why we were able to create this space in the first place. So that wall was built probably illegally at the time by a previous neighbor on the boundary line, which means it's a shared wall. And it was super long. It was even longer. It was maybe like 4 meters long, and our extension is 3 meters long. This used to create a really long cone of shade in what was the patio. So this used to be the patio, and there was this massive cone of shade. Instead of being restricted by the fact that we had this wall, we decided to turn it around and use it as an opportunity to apply for a 3 meter partial width extension, which we probably wouldn't have been granted if it was a full extension or had the wall not been there. But because it was there and it was on the boundary line, we got granted the permission to build the dining room. We've got a ton of light in here. We've got 2 roof lights. We've got a massive picture window, this aluminum crystal doors opening into the patio. So it's really bright in here at all times. This table is an antique table from Home Barn in Oxfordshire. It's made from architectural beams that are over 100 years old, and it's got such lovely character and patina, and we don't want to be too precious. So there's little wax spillage, there's little things here and there, marks, indentation, that's all fine. These chairs were another bargain. We found them at our local flea market here in Stokey. They were only £15 each. And I just love the color of the leather, this olive green, which is my favorite color. So they were a bargain, and I think they fit perfectly in this space. And that arrangement is something I did, I think 2 years ago. It started as a Christmas decoration, so it had a lot of pine and a lot of green. And then once Christmas passed, I just added eucalyptus and other bits and bobs, and slowly with time, the colors kind of blended into the bricks. It's quite magical how that happened. From the dining room, we then walk into the kitchen, and this is the Venetian corner I was talking about earlier. So this is where actually the kitchen used to end. So it used to be like this, and then doors into the patio here. And as we were uncovering, and as the builders were removing the ugly previous old kitchen, we uncovered this wall, and I just immediately fell in love because, as I said, it reminds me so much of the patina and the colors you see in Venice. So we decided to keep it, including this really old vent. And I just think it adds so much character and personality to the space. And we also decided to keep this wall exposed. I mean, this wasn't meant to be on show, like this massive concrete block and this kind of patchy plaster was initially meant to be covered, which is why my builder was like, are you sure about this? Because it looks a bit like unfinished. And I was like, no, it's great. I love it as it is. So we added a little brass rail for my collection of Japanese brushes. This copper pot was my grandma's copper pot, and then leaves that we collect on our travels. So this is oregano from Italy, and this, I forget the name of this. I think it's something like mountain oregano from Greece. This painting has a really special place in my heart because it's my grandfather's painting. He was amateur painter. He just did it as a hobby in his spare time. But I love that it used to live in my grandparents' kitchen, and so did the copper pot, and now they live together here. So I love that my grandparents can be together in my home. And then we've got a collection of little antiques. This is an antique I sourced in Japan. Again, local, an old coffee mill from our local flea market, Japanese basket. And then this piece, it's quite amazing how it slots perfectly in the space, but it's also antique, and it houses my collection of glasses. And then over here, we've got the main kitchen runner. The marble, as I mentioned, is Calacata amber from Mandarin Stone, and it's the same that we use in the shower upstairs. I love the kind of simplicity of it, but also the slightly warm pinkish tones to it. I love having a big butler sink. It's so handy. And also something I would recommend is having a tap with a hose. I don't really know what these are called, but it's so handy. This was actually super cheap from Amazon, and still, fingers crossed, hasn't given me any troubles. And then we have this open shelf to house all our plates. This part specifically is the lowest ceiling in the house. So I was conscious of not encumbering it with too many heavy cabinets. So I think having open shelves really helps with keeping the space quite airy. That little lemon painting is another sentimental piece. It might not be the best painting in the world, but I painted it when we moved here. It was lockdown. It was my birthday. It was in January. And Joe gifted me, I used to paint when I was a teenager, and Joe gifted me for my birthday a little acrylic set. So we had an activity afternoon that day, and that's what I came up with. And it's been living there ever since. So yeah, it's really sentimental for me just because of the memory. Over here, we've got our dishwasher, our oven, my Smag toaster and kettle that come from Italy. Now, moving to the showstopper of what I think is the showstopper of the kitchen, my beloved pantry, which always stays open. Actually, we made these doors just so we could shut them and hide the clutter, but actually they are never closed. But they're beautiful doors. They were inspired by this bakery in Paris that I saw. So I drew them and had my carpenter made them, and I love how they look old and as if they were always here, but they're not. They're new. But yeah, as I was saying, these doors always stay open because I just love the sight of the pantry. And I love, it just gives me such a sense of abundance and being catered for and cared for in a way. I think the fridge as an appliance is such a stressful, there's always that moldy jar at the back of the fridge. There's always things that are expiring. You have to clean it. Whereas the pantry is just always there for you, always has your back. And you don't have to worry too much about it other than refilling it, which is for me is the fun part anyway. So yeah, I have on this side, I've got my flowers and my collection of spices and my collection of honey. I'm a big honey consumer. My family produces honey in Italy. So we got some honey from our vineyard, and then my canned products. Over here we got all my pasta and rices and grains, nuts. This is the snack shelf, so we got nuts, biscuits, crackers, dates, my auntie's cookies from Italy. Just things that are easy to grab when people show up and you want to offer them something. And then over here we've got my collection of teas, and actually I have a bit of a problem, a bit of a unhealthy obsession with teas. So I probably have too many teas for a sane person. They'll last me a lifetime. But here are my infusion and blends, and also single herbs, for example, rosebud or anise seeds or chamomile. And then I've got more teas over there, and then I've got my Japanese/Korean tea selection over here, and then more teas inside behind the curtains, which are made by the same seamstress that did the Café curtains, so my Italian seamstress Giovanna. And these are great because they really do conceal all the mess inside the pantry. So all the unsightly, ugly boxes just go chucked behind the curtains. And then at the bottom, I've got my collection of cookbooks, even though I am more of an intuitive cook. I don't necessarily follow recipes a lot of the times, even though I probably should do more. But being a graphic designer, I just love them as objects, and I collect them as beautiful print objects. And I know if I need inspiration, it'll be there for me. So the pantry was the first thing we decided upon. The fact that I really wanted a pantry, we decided the position, and then kind of everything else flowed from here. So to me, it made absolute sense to have the island, which is my main prepping space, just facing the pantry, so I can easily and quickly access all the ingredients I need, all the spices, all the stuff that I need. And I think still to this day is probably one of the best decisions I've made layout wise, because it's more, or at least it used to be more common to find the island in a parallel configuration to the main kitchen runner. But having the pantry at my back, it just made perfect sense. And it also means that I can look out onto the dining room and the garden whilst I prepare food, rather than just facing a blank wall, which didn't make any sense to me. The island ends up not just being my main prep area, but also where guests always tend to gravitate towards. I just noticed that without me guiding them, they just tend to grab a seat by the island and we just have tea here. I think probably is the view on the pantry has such an appeal on people, so they just want to sit here and look at the pantry. So this side of the extension was used to be outdoor space, so you can still see the old house. We installed this beam to support the weight of the upstairs floor, and I decided to keep it exposed because, again, I didn't want, the ceiling is already quite low in the kitchen. I didn't want to make it even lower. I just painted it in this anthracite grey to match the crystal doors. So there's a kind of material connection there. The steel is all the same color. And then the initial plan for this space was to have very wide steps, and I had envisioned putting like a lemon tree because we got a massive skylight there. So I had this vision of like a mini orangery, and I thought, wouldn't it be nice to have the material mimic the outdoor space, because it was meant to be like green, a little green pocket within the house. We then ended up having this really useful storage space to house the boiler, and then all my cleaning products and Hoover are in there, which meant the width of the steps were reduced. There wasn't any room for my lemon tree anymore, but I still decided to keep the bricks, and I'm really glad I did. They still act as a connection between the inside and the outside, and also are the same bricks that we use in the fireplace in the living room, and just adds again a bit of interest and character to an otherwise passageway that would probably have been overlooked. Here we've got a little utility bathroom, which is actually, I think, a little jewel in this house and a little unexpected for such a small space. It's the only room in the house that doesn't have any windows. So I decided to embrace that and make it super cozy and warm. So I used plaster, the same lime wash paint that we used in the loft and in the kitchen, just a different color from Bauwerk in this kind of plaster pink color. The taps are the cheapest trick we used in the house because they're just plumbing copper pipes that I think add a lot of charm and industrial charm. The inspiration actually behind that was from one of our local favorite restaurants called Jolene. They have a very similar vibe in their bathroom, and I kind of stole the idea from there. And then the sink is made of concrete from a company called Cast. It looks bespoke because it just fits the space perfectly, but it's actually off the shelf. And then we've got a composition from a super talented local florist called Emily from Design by Nature. She did a couple of, I bought a couple of her pieces from her. There's one on the kitchen island, there's one on our desk shelf, and this one was the first piece I commissioned to her to be bespoke. So it has the kind of pink and rusty colors that match the toilet. My favorite thing about my home is that it so completely reflects us. And I think it's such a privilege to be able to build something from scratch that completely represents you. We're so lucky that way. Everything, I mean, it's a bit like choosing your favorite child, but I think definitely the pantry was my dream come true. Before we moved here, in our one bed flat in Shoreditch, I had a proto pantry, I call it, like a beta version of the pantry, which was just some IKEA shelves with the jars on it. It was my biggest dream. I always say, give me a walk-in pantry any day over a walk-in wardrobe. So the pantry still is my absolute delight. I also really love our ensuite and our bedroom upstairs because it's so cozy, so relaxing. It's got great light because it's got windows on both sides. We've got this amazing big picture window that frames the beautiful tree that's at the back of the garden, which is one of the reasons I fell in love with the house. in the first place. So I would say these two, and funnily enough, they're the two areas that we renovated, so that we put more of our effort in. The loft and the kitchen are my two favorite parts of the house. So we're now in the loft. This is our bedroom and our ensuite. This floor didn't exist, so this is all completely new. I chose to use the same finishes to unify the two new areas of the house. So the kitchen and the loft have the same finishes, and then the rest of the house, the old part of the house, has the same paint colors. So there's only like 4 paint colors throughout the house. Here we used a lovely lime wash from Bowerk called Stone that we applied ourselves, which I think lends itself beautifully to the slightly more contemporary feel that we have in the loft. One of my favorite features of this room is this huge window and the way it frames the beautiful tree that we have at the back of the garden. So I would you'll find me reading or having a cup of tea and just spying on the neighbors and looking at my beloved tree. This bed has a bit of a story because it comes from Italy. It's a company called Gervasoni. We slept on the floor for a year when we moved in first. I'm a big fan of taking your time before you choose the right piece, rather than just rushing and getting everything you need done. So this took about 8 months to get here between production and COVID delays and everything. So we slept on the floor for a year, but it was totally worth it. I just love it so much. It's a storage bed, so the bed lifts, which is really handy. You can never have enough storage, I think. It's got a linen headboard and a lovely green detailing. The bed lights lamps are from Rose Uniacke. They are in an unpolished brass finish, which I love because it ages and develops a patina, and I love stuff that age and develop patinas. This is something I would recommend everyone have in their bedroom, is a massive basket to chuck all the mess. So I store like my pajama in there or like my day robes in there. That's great, it's out of the way. We've got more storage under the bench, which you're not allowed to see because they're very messy. There's a bit of a story about the doors. So believe it or not, initially I had envisioned a pocket door, which wouldn't have been nowhere near as nice as this. But because we've got the shower on the other side of this wall, our builder suggested that the movement from the pocket door might create problems with the tiles. I think such a dramatic start of your day when you get up and open the doors and it's like I'm here. So I just love this detail. And then, as I said, the curves are a nod to Italy and Italian architecture, and they match so beautifully this curve on this wall, which was my architect's George from BVDS idea, to have this curve soften the edge to create an illusion of more space. I think that the layout of this bedroom is really clever because initially I really wanted a walk-in wardrobe. Having said before that I'll take a walk-in pantry any day, I also wanted a walk-in wardrobe, but there wasn't enough space. So the solution was to have this corridor with wardrobes, and then I've got my little makeup desk at the end of it. And then this curve just softens the whole space, and it goes really well with the curve in the doors. So this ceiling light is from Heels. I just love it's made of metal, if you can believe it. It looks just like fabric. I just love the movement and dynamism and softness that it brings, and I think it's a real kind of statement piece in here. And it creates the prettiest light when switched on, even though I'm not a big fan of big lights. I'm all for, I constantly have to run behind Joe switching off the lights that he puts on, because I'm a big fan of natural light during the day and then just very dim lights, almost candlelight at night. So this never gets used, if I'm being honest with you, but I just love the softness that it brings, and again the curve, complementing the curves of the door and the curve of the wall. And then we got more curves in the ensuite with the mirror and the shower, and yeah, it's a lovely feature, I think. This is our ensuite bathroom, and other than the arch doors, which is probably one of my favorite features in the house, my second two favorite features are the bath and the shower. So the bath, I really love taking baths. It's one of the ways I distress and relax and unwind. And I really wanted a very deep, very generous bath. I found this antique painting. It's from the 1800s. It's a French painting. Again, in Rye, where it seems like I sourced 90% of my antiques. But this was love at first sight when I found it. It was, at the time, quite a big investment for us. It was our first art investment. But I sort of fell in love with it instantly. I just couldn't get away from it. It just has, I think, such a magnetic quality to it, and the way the light hits and the neutral background, it almost has a photographic quality, I think. And I love the way this lady is just seems so comfortable in her own skin, and it sort of serves me as a daily reminder to embrace your flaws and embrace yourself and your body. And so yeah, it's a very special piece to me. And then over here we've got our built-in shower, which I absolutely love. And one of the things I love the most about it is having a seat, which is life-changing, if I'm honest, because in the morning when you're sleepy, you just sit there. I have the water pumping at my face, and I slowly wake up in my shower, and I just love it. So the marble is actually the same marble we use in the kitchen. As I was mentioning before, I really wanted to tie the material and color palette between the two new areas. So the kitchen and this area, the loft, share the same materiality. So the marble is, the seat is an offcut of the marble piece we used for the kitchen counters, and then the tiles are just, again, offcuts made from the same marble. And obviously, being Italian, I had to have a bidet, which confuses a lot of my English friends. Not my husband, he is totally a convert, but yeah, bidet are fundamental, in my opinion, in any bathroom, and I won't hear it otherwise. My dad famously said he would refuse to come visit us if the guest bathroom didn't have a bidet, so bidet is fundamental. And yeah, over here we have the vanity with a beautiful marble sink from Lusso stone. And again, arches and round shapes mirroring the arch of the door. If I'm being super honest with you, you see this pristine and very clutter-free. It's not usually like this. One regret I do have in this space is not have built a storage behind the mirror. So this is a stud wall that we created. And because we wanted wall-mounted taps, we had to build the stud wall to come out slightly from the chimney breast behind. Had I just built it a tiny bit forward, I think we could have fit a sort of cabinet concealed behind the mirror. So this, to this day, is probably my biggest regret of the renovation, this thing. But otherwise, I really still love the look of the floating shelf. Because it just creates a lot of airiness and light in this space, and I wanted the whole loft to feel really light and almost ethereal. What we wanted to achieve with this house was to create an environment that felt most of all calm and relaxed and welcoming and not too precious, and sort of an oasis from the hustle and bustle of a lot of busy London. That's how we feel whenever we step into the house. We just sort of exhale and we feel so relaxed and at ease. And I really wanted because we love to entertain, we love to have friends around. I really wanted to create a space where people just feel at home, basically, and they don't need to feel they're too precious. For example, the marble, it stains, it edges, it's fine. Like, I never want anything to be too precious. I want just people be able to relax, and a big part of it actually I think is the pantry, because as you can see behind me, I just love the fact that my close friends can come and help themselves to their favorite tea that they know exactly where there is, or have a biscuit, or, you know, have a snack. And it's the pantry is always there for them to welcome them. And, you know, whenever I have a spontaneous visitor, which unfortunately doesn't happen as often in London as it would in Italy, I know that it's just everything is there that I need to make them feel welcomed and at home. So this is really the best compliment I receive, is when people come in and say this feels so calm and so relaxed, because that's really what I wanted to achieve. So this is our guest bedroom. It was already in really good condition. The floorboards were already here. The lovely original fireplace was here. It just really needed a lick of paint and some love. We added the wardrobes, which are actually just IKEA, but we've customized fronts that are lovely joiner made for us. So in terms of little objects, we've got a vintage tapestry that I sourced online. This antique mirror is also from Rye, from a shop in Rye that unfortunately doesn't exist anymore. We saved a brick from the renovation process. As graphic designers, we're really into vernacular typography. We love the detail of the S. My little cookbook that I found in an antique library in Venice. This was a total bargain. This was from Facebook Marketplace. It was only like £30, which still to this day blows my mind. But it's one of my favorite surfaces to photograph. I shoot all my recipes on here because the light is great. This is a little very sweet cameo that I found at the antique market in Arezzo. And it just reminds me, we got married in Umbria, which is very close to Arezzo. And it just reminds us of the landscape of that region. So we love to have it here. This is a very dead plant that I think looks better dead than alive. I have to say I'm not green-fingered at all, which is why you might have noticed a lot of dried flower composition around the house, because they're much easier to keep alive. But this is a asparagus fern plant, but I just think it looks so much prettier, and it matches the curtain. The curtains were made by a local company. I really love this kind of mustard velvet color. I think it adds such grandiosity. If the small bedroom is the cozy bedroom, I see this as the formal grown-up bedroom where we might host our parents coming over. So I really wanted this room to feel a bit more grown-up and a bit more formal, and I think the curtains really add to that sense of elegance and formality. And I just love, as you can tell, I love green, any shades of green. So yeah, and when the sun, this is a west-facing room, so when we have the sun coming through and reflecting on this golden fabric, it's just magical. I think this is really sweet. It's another flea find at my local flea shop. But it was my first and last sewing project, because Joe gifted me a sewing machine. So I created this little seat, which I'm very proud of, even though I could have made it in a much less complicated way. But it was a great starting project, and hopefully I'll do more of that. So the cello is Joe's cello. Joe used to play cello when he was a teenager. He still has it. I'm still working on him resuming his cello activities, because it's my favorite instrument, cello. It's here as a reminder for him to pick it up again. He's definitely the musical talent of the family. Music is not in my repertoire of talents. We've got another little sweet cameo that, again, my uncle and auntie, the antique lover, uncle and auntie, gifted me The headboard is Zara Home. This linen bedding is from a company called Cultivar. Again, 50 shades of green in my house. Is green everywhere, but I think it goes really well with the green tones of the rug. So this is our small guest bedroom. It's one of my favorite rooms in the house because it's super cozy. It's got views on the garden and on my beloved big tree at the back of the garden. It's got so much soul and original features like the fireplace that was already here, the floorboards, the creaky floorboards were already here. They just, as I mentioned before, needed a sanding and a bit of varnish. We also added this paneling, which I think really contributes to this coziness of the room. And then in terms of the little details that we added, there's so many to talk about, but this, for example, is a recent discovery that I found in a shop I love in Rye called Soap and Salvation. It's an Italian vintage, well, actually antique linen with a really gorgeous embroidery detail that's been dyed by someone here in the UK with this gorgeous terracotta color. The bedding is from another English company that I love called Rowan and Wren. These are little antique finds that I found at my local flea market. So this is a Victorian little sewing table that I thought was super sweet and really cute in its simplicity. And then also this is an antique tray that I found. And then little things like this lovely Japanese stones. This is a little ikebana bowl that I made. Over here we've got another antique piece that I sourced. This used to live in my grandma's house. So now it's here, but I love the fact that it kind of has a parallel with the flowers that I have put in the fireplace. And then my uncle, so my grandma's son and my mom's brother, gifted me this one. We share a love for antiques, so he gifted me this one because he thought would go well with my grandma's painting, and also gifted me this lovely mirror, also from Rye. Rye is our go-to destination for all things antiques. Yeah, a couple of other details are this little clip lamp, which I've been looking for another clip lamp like this for ages, and they're, in my experience, almost impossible to find. So this I found again at a local antique place. And then those two little framed flowers are little bouquets that I made in Italy during the first lockdown. I'm really a firm believer that it's okay to mix and match pieces from different eras. Otherwise, I think, I love antiques, but I think if you stick to just one era, it kind of results being a bit pastiche. So, for example, in this room, we've got a mid-century flower pot lamp that has nothing to do with the Victorian little things that I've been collecting, but I think it works really well anyway. And yeah, as I said, I think it's absolutely fine. In fact, I prefer to mix and match modern with antique and to sort of make it your own and not make it feel like almost like a set of a period drama or something. So the Venetian Pantry, my Instagram account, was born really out of the desire to share our developing home with friends and family that couldn't come and visit us, because we finished the renovation during the pandemic and we actually moved in during the second lockdown. And so it was just born out of a desire to share the progress on the house with friends and family. But then it quickly kind of took a life of its own. I think the pandemic was a time when a lot of us were stuck at home 24/7. We were really hungry for inspiration on how to improve our homes. And so it grew quite quickly, and it sort of evolved into this space where I combine all my passions. So as I mentioned, I'm a graphic designer. I studied industrial design. I've always also done photography, kind of on the side, even though now it's becoming more of a more predominant part of my business. And I've always also loved cooking. So it kind of became this place where all my passions converged in a very natural, organic way. And I decided to call it the Venetian Pantry because it was a nod to my origin. So I'm Venetian in the broader sense, as in I'm not from Venice, but I'm an hour away from Venice. And then the pantry was always gonna be is really the heart of our home. It's the first thing we designed in the kitchen, and everything else kind of rotated from there. And it just gives me, it's as cliche as it sounds, it just gives me so much joy. So that was the choice behind the name. And then it kind of sort of evolved into a business, and it allows me to meet so many interesting people. I started a podcast that takes place in my dining room, where I cook for my guests, and we have conversation around their careers and the interesting lives they've led. And it's just, it's been amazing being able to connect with so many creative, like-minded people through this account. As it is a semi-sunny summer day in London, I thought we would make together my ricotta and courgettes crostini, which is one of my most popular recipes I've done so far on Instagram. It's one of those recipes that's very high reward with minimum effort, which is kind of sums up my cooking styles really. So what we need is some courgettes. I've got here some baby courgettes that are in season right now, super sweet and soft. Any courgette would work, but I would recommend, if you can, find the smaller ones. Then we need some ricotta. Good quality ricotta will go a long way. Because it's such a simple recipe with 3 ingredients, I think it's quite key that those ingredients are really good quality. We've got some olive oils, some lemon zest, and some honey and some mint, and that's it. So we start by cutting the courgettes. For this job, I use a mandolin. You could also use a potato peeler if you don't have a mandolin, or you could, if you're very good with your knives, you could cut it yourself. But what I would recommend is to try to have quite thin ribbons, like this kind of thinness. And the reason being is that once we pass them on the grill, they become super soft and super easy to assemble. You don't want a super thick, crunchy bite of courgette. There we go. Okay. I always have a little pot for discarded bits and bobs. Don't throw them away, by the way. You can freeze them and then just add them to your stock. They make for great vegetable stock. So we got our courgette ribbons. I'm also gonna cut the bread, prep the bread. I've got a baguette. Again, any kind of bread would work really that you like. I just like the size of the baguette because it's a pretty self-contained bite. And I like to cut the bread at an angle, about maybe a centimeter thick, just like that. We've got our courgettes prepped, our bread is prepped. Let's just put it to the side for a moment. And let's focus on our ricotta. Now I've drained, it's quite important that you drain the ricotta. This one comes with a handy little basket that drains it for you. But you really want to remove any excess water from your ricotta. So I've got here 250 grams of ricotta. And then we're gonna take a lemon, unwaxed, my zester. If you don't have one of these, I really recommend a microplane zester. They're so good. I zest anything from, great. Lemon zest, parmigiano, makes super fluffy flakes of parmigiano, nutmeg, pretty much anything. So the zest of 1 lemon goes in there. So we've got our lemon zest. I'm just gonna add a couple of drops of lemon juice, not much. just maybe a quarter of a lemon worth of lemon juice. And then we take our whisk. This is the tricky part because it will stick, especially if it's good quality, it's quite thick, but you want to gently break it and then start whipping it to incorporate the zest and also make it airy and fluffy. So what I've learned from years of hosting is you want to try to make your life as easy as possible, either by doing a really simple recipe like the one I'm doing. Maybe a little bit more of lemon will help it come looser. Either make something really simple like the one I'm doing, or prep as much as you can in advance. Maybe you can make the dessert in advance, especially when it's summer. You don't want to be faffing in the kitchen in the heat. So cold things like this are great. And yeah, prep as much in advance as you can. Keep it cool in summer with cold dishes, and keep it simple. So that's kind of the consistency you end up. It's kind of fluffy and airy. So just a bit of pepper and a generous pinch of salt in the ricotta. Now, before we move to the grill, what I like to do with the bread before toasting it is just brush it with a bit of olive oil on both sides, and that will make it extra, just extra crisp and lovely. So a bit of olive oil on both sides, and we're ready to move to the grill. So I've got my cast iron griddle on high heat, and now I'm just gonna place the courgette ribbons sideways. They're so thin that they really don't need long at all to cook. A couple of minutes maybe. And I don't even turn them because, again, because they're so thin, you'll start to see the lines of the grill come through. And once you see that, you know they're kind of ready. All you want really is to soften them a little bit, because you could easily eat them raw, but I like to just soften them. Plus, I think the griddle marks are really pretty. So when you start to see this kind of grit marks, they're getting ready. So you don't need to flip them really, because they're so thin that it just cooks through. So when you start seeing them looking like this, they're ready to take off. Okay, with the courgettes are done, and now we're doing toasting our bread. I love that sound of the oil hitting the griddle, that crinkling sound, if that's even a word, crinkling. I might have made it up. Got the last bit of oil. Oh, it smells good already. You really want to get those marks, the char marks. Right, so we've got our courgettes are grilled, our bread is nice and crispy. Now it's just assembly time. But before we do that, I just like to sprinkle a bit of olive oil on the zucchini, a squeeze of lemon juice, the remaining that we have from this half a lemon, and then again some salt. And some pepper. Cool. Now we have all our ingredients. It's time to assembly. So our whipped ricotta. You just take a generous. This doesn't need to be perfect or pristine. It can be quite messy and homely. In fact, the messier the better, I think. So I just like to use the method that I call the dump. So you just take a bunch and plonk them on your ricotta in a sort of very casual manner. As I said, it doesn't need to be pristine. It's quick and efficient, but also looks really pretty when you scatter them like that. Okay, now I've got my mint. I like to take the little leaves. This could be, you could finely chop your herbs. I just think it's prettier to have the little tips. Look super pretty. So last touch is a good drizzle of honey. You want some quite fluid liquid honey. This is my family honey. And it's acacia, but any kind of good kind of liquid honey will work. The weather is helping because it's hot, so it helps it stay quite loose. Just a generous drizzle all over. Cool. And when to finish, just another grind of black pepper for good measure. Why not? So here we have it, our summer crostini with whipped lemon ricotta and courgettes and mint. Let's try. The ricotta is so creamy, and then the lemon kind of cuts through the creaminess, and the sweet of the honey kind of balances the tart from the lemon, and then the mint freshens up. It just works. So good. For me, I think a house really becomes a home when as I said, it's not too precious, so it's not like a museum that you feel like you can't touch. But also it's the little, I love collecting objects on holiday during our travels. So I love surrounding myself with objects that have a story. That's why I also really love antiques, for the same reason, because they have a sort of soul, and I love thinking about the different lives and the different hands that touch those objects. And so there's so many little knickknacks in the house that have a story behind them, from, for example, my granddad painting, to my grandma's brass pot, to something we got on Japan on our trip. So I think that's, for me, what makes a house feels personal and lived in and full of personality and character. The word home to me just means the place where you can truly, utterly be yourself. It's where you come to retreat from the world, to relax, to share your space with the people you love. It's just, it's where you feel you're most yourself, I think.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.